When the Division 2 launches, what factions will we encounter? Will we fight the likes of the Cleaners, the LMB, the Rioters, and the Rikers? Or will we battle completely new factions? That's next. Hey, it's DeadSockPuppet here, bringing you another Division video. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back, and if you're new, thank you for the view. Make sure to click the DSP logo below to subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss out on new content. Also, let me know in the comments below if there's any topics that you'd like me to cover. Now let's jump into what kinds of factions might be in the Division 2. When considering what factions we'll encounter, we'll first have to look at what city we'll be in. While there's still more of New York to reclaim, it's possible that we could end up taking back some other city. If we do end up remaining in New York, I'm pretty sure that at least 1 to 2 of the current factions will remain, most likely with a little retooling or rebuilding. Whether or not we stay in New York City, we'll most likely see new factions, but if we move to a new city, we will definitely have to find new factions, as there will most likely be new challenges and new groups to encounter. So what are we looking at for new factions? What kinds of groups might we encounter? Based on the Division 1 and some other Ubisoft games, I think factions would most likely fall into one of 5 archetypes. Those archetypes would be paramilitary like the LMB, government workers or employees like the Cleaners, criminals like Rikers and Rioters, clergy or religious fanatics like in Far Cry 5, and possibly Doomsday preppers. While the first of the 3 were obviously used in Division 1, the last 2 would make sense in a post-apocalyptic universe of the Division. If we're looking at new factions from these archetypes, what kind of groups might we encounter? While the LMB made a great faction, there are many other groups that could be in this archetype. Possible examples could be splinter law enforcement groups like AWOL, National Guard, or SWAT members. However, most interesting choice would be first wave agents. These could potentially be hunters, but I think hunters would be kept separate from factions as they were in Division 1. Most likely, first wave agents would be mirrors of the players themselves and would operate more like smaller squads of LMB. The Cleaners were a rather awesome group, but what other government employees might be the basis for a solid faction? The first thing that comes to mind would be federal or local law enforcement officers. After the collapse, it's possible that local police or federal agents could try to take a hardline approach to restore order in a city at all costs. It's also possible that a mayor, governor, judge, or some other federal employee could try to use the law enforcement as their own personal military. But on the other side of the law could be a new criminal faction. While Rikers would be localized to New York, it could be possible to see rioters in other cities. However, if we wanted to turn to a new criminal faction, there are many potential options we could see. Some prime examples would be gangs and organized crime, and depending on the city, possibly a cartel or terrorist cell. Most of these groups would have the potential to weather the plague if they had enough members to build from. With each of these new criminal groups, there's lots of potential to take Division 2 in different ways. This archetype is the one that we'll most likely see in the Division 2, for the simple fact that when chaos ensues, criminals will step in and try to take advantage of the people. I think that clergy or religious fanatics could be a long shot, and while we did see them in Far Cry 5, I'm not sure how they would translate into the Division universe. That being said, it's possible that in any major city there could be enough remaining members of a religion or religious group that could band together and begin to campaign to save the souls of those that remain. If we do see a group like this, I would see them having similar mindset to the Cleaners, as they would be out to purify the sins of those that remain, by any means necessary. While Ubisoft has used a group like this in the past, I think it would be the least likely archetype to be seen. And finally, there's the Doomsday preppers. These people would be the ones with the stockpiles of guns, ammo, and assorted supplies for the apocalypse. They would be strongly opposed to the government, and thus would be a great group to fight government agents like our SHD agents. While they might not have the tech of a paramilitary group, they would definitely have a lot of firepower and could easily have hideouts all over a city that they would know very well. This archetype would make for a great militia group, and they could be well dug in, providing many opportunities for some great story and missions. With all these factions, how do the SHD agents, rogue agents, and hunters fit in? In my opinion, hunters should be used in Division 2 like they were in Division 1, sparingly and with extreme prejudice. These should be the ultimate enemy to encounter, and while they're not all alike, I don't see them as a faction per se. Rather, they're an enemy that can be used to spice up the game, so that leaves us with the SHD and rogue agents. When it comes to this, I agree with the idea that players should be able to be either. That depending on how you play determines your path, and the path of the SHD or the path of the rogue. I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to see both an SHD and rogue way to complete each mission, and depending on how you complete each mission would also determine how you slide on the scale. When it comes time to finish the game, I'd hope that there could be an ending for each path. I don't know if this is possible in the Division 2, but it's been done very well in other games, and makes the story count for more, as well as provides replayability, especially if you have to restart from scratch to see each ending. So as I said, I think that we'll see factions from these 5 archetypes. I hope to see some type of new criminal element as well as some combination of the rest, most likely a paramilitary or Doomsday prepper group. However, I really would like to see one of the other groups, namely a fanatical religious group or a politician wielding law enforcement agents. No matter what factions we do see, I hope that players are able to choose between being either SHD or Rogue and that it affects the outcome of the game. With all that said, I'd like to say thank you again for watching. What factions do you think we'll see in the Division 2? Will some of the Division 1 factions return? What do you think of the archetypes I laid out? Should our actions matter as we embrace the path of the SHD or the path of the Rogue? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Finally, if you haven't already, click the DSP logo below to subscribe, ring the bell to get notifications on when I post new content, and remember to comment below if there's a topic you'd like me to cover.